26 points is great offensive output. We, in the pregame, said that they would, our defense, which got our offense going in the beginning of the game, was absolutely locked down. But if you're going to shoot 61% from 3-point range, it's going to be pretty hard to sustain. You got to go really far out on the guys. And somehow, I don't know if we should have anticipated it more. You certainly brought it up in our pregame about their 3-point shooting. So a little disappointed, hard to say that, but a little disappointed that the defense didn't have more of an answer, because if they had come up higher on the 3-point shooting, it wasn't like they had a lot of guys to go to down low. They were outsized and outmanned down low. Mal had one of his best games. I think he got close to 20 and 10. And so would have liked to have seen the defense go a little further out, knowing what was going on. But Marcus Burton, if you're watching this game, you clearly understand why he was the rookie of the year last. That guy has a motor on him that's incredible, which can create all kinds of matchup problems.
So with their 3-point shooting, I saw it a bit differently than the way you described it, and that's okay. That's the point of having these conversations, in that I didn't think it was necessarily that Duke was sitting back in the paint, more so the fact that starting with Burton, that they were able to break down the defense. Duke would help, and then it would be swing. It would be the second pass off of a Burton penetration where Notre Dame was able to get a 3-point shot. And I thought early on Notre Dame was hitting tough threes. I think as the game went on, they did a better job of breaking down the Duke defense, and got to give credit to Coach Shrewsbury for making an adjustment, especially to start the second half when he downsized. Now, it did for parts of the second half that didn't work, because Duke was really attacking matchups and using their size against. They already were bigger than Notre Dame. When Notre Dame, what Coach Shrewsbury did was put in Konecki instead of Keba Njai. So they take out their 6'10", 250-pound post guy, but they put in a 6'7", 3-point shooter. And that spaced the floor for them. It gave them an ability to allow Burton more space to create, because, as you said, he was electric. Could not stay in front of him. I don't think really anyone can. But he really was able to break down the defense, and that led to more open shots for Notre Dame.
Malik Brown's knee injury, which took him out for the whole game, may be a part of the explanation of what happened on defense. Certainly having Malik in for 20 minutes in the middle there, deflections, big reach, that would have been helpful today, given what Notre Dame was able to do.
Couldn't agree more, especially with Malik's ability to defend on the perimeter, his ability to guard. I would have loved, we didn't really even get to see it, but would have loved to see Brown versus Burton and how that would have turned out, because I think he's our best just out-and-out defender. And I thought Malawach, he had good moments, again, out on the perimeter. There were a few times Burton beat him, but overall, I thought Malawach did a really good job guarding on the perimeter. Just would have been fun to see the Burton versus Brown matchup, just to see if anybody, that's our best bet as far as I'm concerned. Nobody really did a great job, so it would have been good to see how that would have turned out.
Well, and speaking of fun, clearly the double technical on Malawach and on Burton, when whatever was said between them, Mal had to bend down to say it. And it was really kind of, and there's Burton kind of looking up, standing his ground. But that was a key moment there because it turned out it was a personal and a technical on Burton, which brought him to 4 fouls. And that kept him out of the game for a while. Duke was able to bring the lead back up. Then he comes back in at like almost the 10-minute mark with the having distributed the ball and clearly a key part of their run there where they got it. Boy, that 3-pointer by Alaco, if that had gone, it would have been a 2-point game at that point.
Yep, certainly would have been. And it's interesting because, well, there was a lot of I don't know what you want to call it, maybe strange calls. I back-to-back games, if we're giving out grades, I thought the refs, again, were not very good today. On both, I guess, consistently inconsistent is the way to put it. So I guess maybe that makes them good. I think both coaches would certainly complain about the refs today. But on that double technical foul, I have no idea unless Marcus Burton said something ridiculous that we couldn't hear, obviously. I have no idea why he got a technical. I understand Malawach kind of coming over because he slapped the ball out of Flagg's hand. He's trying to defend his teammate. But the optics don't look good. You've got the 7'2" guy bumping into the 5'10" guy, standing over him, and you give double technicals. That was just, it didn't really make sense to me. And as you said, that ended up being Burton's 4th foul. Now, he did come back in, as you said, the 10-minute mark. And so the Notre Dame second half run didn't really start until less than, I would say around 4 or 5 minutes to go. So it took a little bit for that to happen. But, man, it's a strange one to break down because Cooper Flagg, awesome. The defense, the first few minutes, awesome. And then as the game went on, not so great. Con Knipple, I thought, started off really good. He was part of the not great close from Duke. I thought he rushed a couple shots. He had a turnover. He didn't look confident the last couple of minutes in that stretch where Notre Dame was really taking it to Duke. And so, yes, Duke wins this game. Cooper Flagg's awesome, but there's a lot that can be fixed, and maybe not a lot, but there's certainly things that can be fixed moving into the next game against Miami. Although I don't expect teams in the future to shoot 61% from 3.
No, but did you think that Flagg's big day, almost having half of the points, was possibly didn't bring the rest of the players into the game? I mean, how many feel actually he did? It's really hard to be critical of Cooper Flagg. It just is. It's like, because he didn't. What did he shoot from the field, Jack?
He was ridiculous. Let's pull up the stats so everybody can see it. Give me 1 second here. So Cooper Flagg in this game was 11 of 14. He was 4 for 6 from 3 and 16 of 17 from the free throw line. So in total, he missed 4 shots,
which is
42
absurd.
points.
So the reason I was curious about, was it possible that he prevented the rest of the Duke offense from getting into the flow? He only attempted 14 field goals. And that is,
but you consider the free throws just in terms of everyone else getting into the flow. There wasn't a lot of attempts for everyone else to get involved. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not being critical of Cooper Flagg for doing that. It really, when you look at the breakdown of who else could have got involved, Proctor had a really strong start. I thought he was awesome to start the game, and then he it's kind of a pattern with him where he'll have moments of games, but he doesn't have The Kansas game, he had a complete game. There's not too many times where he has full games offensively. And as we've talked about, maybe some of that is because he has to guard the other team's best perimeter defender typically. And so he might be a little bit tired. But he didn't have it going. Sion James picks up 2 fouls in the first half, misses the last 10 minutes, doesn't really find a rhythm in the second half. I thought Foster had missed all 3 of his 3 attempts. I thought they were good attempts, but he just doesn't seem confident right now. As you said to me at halftime, Evans got his 3-pointer up early and didn't go in, and then Coach Shire didn't really turn to him in the second half. So outside of the freshman trio, there really wasn't anybody who had it going. Now, I hope this isn't a winning formula moving forward.
No.
So that is the one thing to say. But I also think, as much as we've seen of Cooper, this year, he just does what's needed to win. And so today, he just had to score, apparently, 42 points for Duke to win this game, to save us against the unbelievable 3-point shooting of Notre Dame.
Let's make certain everyone listening is clear. His performance today will be Duke legend. A 40-point performance hasn't occurred since J.J. Redick. And there is no question that his performance out there was just insane. And I think sometimes we could almost take it for granted. I will also have to eat a lot of humble pie that he is not a celebrating kind of guy. Because after the dunk today, he stood there and certainly celebrated that dunk. And that was, if last game was a 10, that was a 9- or something. It was intense, and you thought that was going to get them going. And, it never seemed as if the rest of the team, with the exception of Mal's, because if you combine Coop's 42 with Mal's 20, and that's 62 out of 86 points. And
it gets even crazier than that, because so you do the math, right? So they're combined 17 of 21 from the field, to what you said, to 61 points. And then they're 23 of 25 from the free throw line. They were just unstoppable today. And part of that is because Notre Dame was just undersized in the matchups, especially once they downshifted. That's part of the reason why Cooper Flagg had such a big scoring second half, is because the biggest guy that Notre Dame was playing became Tate Davis, who had to match up with Malawach. And there really wasn't somebody to guard Cooper Flagg, and Duke just took advantage of those matchups. But to your point, it just, nobody else really got involved. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why our defense, it was good. And it's hard to say, remember the game against Wofford where Duke won by, I don't know, it seemed like 50 points and held Wofford to under 40. And it was like, what a defensive performance. But both of us and Coach Shire after the game were like, yeah, the defense was good, but Wofford got a lot of wide open threes and they just didn't hit them. Today I felt like Notre Dame got more open threes as the game went on, but I also feel like they hit a lot of tough threes. And I mean, for Notre Dame to lose a game where they shoot 61% from three, I think says a lot about how good Duke is in fairness as well.
Well, I guess it's just the point total. For Duke to give up 78 points based on our incredible defense, that's a lot of points for us to give up. And, this isn't Auburn.
Yep.
This isn't Tennessee.
Well,
It
Tennessee wouldn't score this many points.
but I mean, it's just
It's
this
not
is Notre
Kentucky.
Dame.
It's
Yeah.
not Iowa State. Alabama. To your point, it's not Illinois. I'm really happy we have that game scheduled. That'll be fun. But yeah, this was just for as great as Cooper was offensively and as much, shot making credit as I want to give Notre Dame. This was just a regression from Duke defensively, where it seemed like we had been building and the way the game started. It seemed like that was going to continue, and it just did not. It's a question of how much, and the truth is always somewhere in the middle. How much credit do you want to give Notre Dame for their shooting and their offense, and how much do you want to say that it was Duke not playing good perimeter defense, not rotating, and not contesting shots like they have been for the most part throughout this season?
Well, and as they did in the first 5 minutes of the game,
Yep.
something got something got away from them. Is the way that I would think about it. Is that they had they started the game with exactly the defense that we expected of them, and then unfortunately something got away. I don't know. Sometimes when you're playing D, if the team just keeps burying threes, and even if they're contested, it's sometimes it is frustrating because you're out there, you're trying to do your best on switching and getting to the man, but it just seems like no matter what you do, they hit a three.
Yeah, we do have a couple comments from Pay the Piper, so let's read them out, and you can give us your feedback, JD. So Pay the Piper says, "Game was way closer than it should have been. Thankful for Coop's record performance." I think we both can agree with that statement. He also says Duke's perimeter defense was questionable at times. I think in this game more than at times. There's just after the first, as you said, first 5 minutes, there was a stretch in the second half where I thought it was good, but man, just not great enough. Says allowed too many threes, and then also just chimed in positive free throws were A++. And that's a good shout because that was one thing I had said earlier this year could be a problem for this Duke team. And Malawach and Flagg obviously carried the I don't want to say carried the flag, but I guess I kind of have to. Carried the banner maybe on the free throw shooting, but they were just awesome today. And if not for that, this could have been a Notre Dame upset win.
So that was I can't see who they Pay the Piper.
Yes, Pay the Piper.
Very good analysis. Very good. Nice comments. Nice. I think he's spot on, or she's spot on to all of the comments there, and the free throw shooting. It's very interesting. One thing that Mal does with his height, as someone who takes 53 throws a day, maybe not lately, but 53 throws a day. If you have an arc on the ball, the rim is bigger. If you shoot more of a line drive, the rim is smaller. And Mal standing there at 7'2", when he's in rhythm, there is a really nice arc on his free throw. And he's got a very nice rhythm to it. And Flagg's free throw shooting, it's just today. It's getting there. I mean, he's going to be up around 82 to 83% with today's game.
Yeah, and it has been building. It's been building with Cooper Flagg over the past. It's like each game, right? Yeah, that was awesome. There's no way he could do that again. And then he just is better. Like, what's he going to do next time? Score 50 points? I don't think so, but he just seems to get better each and every game. The free throw shooting with him in particular, it was I don't want to say it wasn't, certainly was never bad. It was probably like average to start the year, and he just seems to have gotten better with that, game after game as we've gotten into ACC play. Um, this was Duke's sixth ACC game this season. I think it's a tough tough call between this and the Louisville game. What was the tougher test for Duke? With Louisville, it was a very close game. Duke was down, obviously big in the first 10 minutes or so. And then it was a close game. And then with 10 minutes to go, Duke took over. And then it really wasn't a game. In this one, there was a series of runs. It's interesting. It started with a 14-0 Duke run. It didn't quite close, but there was, near the end of the game, a 15-1 Notre Dame run. So they kind of evened out. And then it was the rest of the game that, decided it. But, this is going to be a challenge for Duke in the ACC in the sense of they can't let their defensive intensity fall off because the opponent isn't as good. And I know that's been your concern, JD, with the level of competition in the ACC as we get ready for, we're a couple months away from March Madness now. We're getting closer. And it's important that, everyone is firing on all cylinders defensively heading into the big dance.
So in our pregame show, we were talking about or having some fun with could Duke run the table? And one of our favorite commenters said 17-3. That was his prediction, I think. And so they're now 6-0. And I just realized how Shire can challenge them, which is basically, when was the last team, if ever, it's a good stat, wish we had a stat department, to go 20-0 in the ACC. And so they got to 6-0. And each time.
What Lawrence Freeman, shout out Lawrence, was saying was that the record was 17-3.
That is the record. Okay.
Well, according to Lawrence, I haven't. We're gonna rock with Lawrence on that. I haven't looked at it myself, but so that nobody's certainly gone 20-0. So yeah, it's a good challenge to pose to the team.
If you're playing in a division where clearly no one has the size or the skills or the ability to play with you. Yes, Notre Dame, it got a little scary there, but I don't think I ever was sitting there thinking we would lose. It just wasn't that kind of game. So we're 6-0, and I think Coach Shire can actually go to them and say, we should win every game in the ACC. And let's see what happens as we, as just a way to challenge them. That's the only reason I'm saying it. Are they going to win every game? Not likely. But it's a great way to challenge them in a division that's weaker this year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, you look at Duke's next two opponents. They've got Miami, who they've had better years. Let's just say that. And then Boston College, not necessarily the cream of the crop of the ACC. But after that, they do move in to the North Carolina portion of their schedule, where they'll have Wake Forest and then NC State and North Carolina back to back to back. And those teams will certainly be giving their best efforts, as every team will, but even more so because of the in-state rivalry of those games. And so Duke is going to need to play better defensively than they did today and get more involvement from the rest of the team, because it just, it's going to be tough to continue winning games where you have two guys have awesome games, a third guy has a decent game. The rest of the team, offensively at least, kind of struggles.
Jack, can you look at Notre Dame stats? So Marcus averages 18 a game, and he went for, last time I saw it, he was at 22. I don't know what he finished with, maybe 24.
You mean the stats for today's game?
for today's game. So
So
Marcus goes over his average. Uh, Braden Shrewsbury averaged 16. Did he get
under.
to 16? Under. And Tay Davis was definitely under. He averages 16 and a half.
So Shrewsbury had 14. He was close. I have the stats up
Close.
for our watchers here. And Tay Davis had 11. It was playing against Duke this year. If you are not a 3-point shooter, it's going to be tough for you. And Tay Davis actually even hit one of his threes, but it's just not a strength of his game. The real difference maker today for Notre Dame, the reason why this game was closer than people thought, us included, was Sir Mohammed, who, shout out to the broadcast of Jay Billis. And
Nazir Muhammad's son.
Yes, Nazir Muhammad's son. And I mentioned in the preview that he was an ESPN Top 100 recruit and just wasn't a consistent part of the rotation for Notre Dame. He picked a hell of a game to have. I don't know if it's his best game. Haven't looked at all of Notre Dame games, but one of his best games at the very least of his college career. He banked in a 3 in the first half, which was the early part of their threes. There was like one from the logo. There was 5 feet off the line. They did hit some tough ones early, but
It should be disallowed when if you don't call it. A bank 3, you got to call that.
That's when I start to think, may not be our night. I have the PTSD from the Elite 8 game against NC State last year, where I think it was DJ Horn banked in a 3 from the corner in the first half, and that kind of kept them in it. But anyway, Sir Mohammed was a big difference maker for Notre Dame today. Had 11 points, which is a lot of the reason they were able to stay in it. Obviously, the biggest difference maker, though, as you said, Marcus Burton was awesome. And I totally understand. I mean, I got it, but having watched him live, watched him a little bit against NC State, North Carolina, obviously the full game today, he is just an impossible person to guard. And his ability to get past he's never worried about getting past his guy. It's the second guy that I'm sure he's always focused on. And that frees up the rest of the team to get better shots. And so I expect Notre Dame, even though now they're 7-9 and 1-4 in conference play, I expect them to finish, much closer to 500 in the conference, or maybe even slightly above. I think they'll go on a run.
So just a couple of things, and then I think we should wrap it up. So first, boy, they're now heading back to South Bend, and they will have lost to UNC by 1, to NC State by 1, and now almost gave a scare there. Alako shot goes in. It would have been a 2-point game down the stretch. I don't know how you feel as a team. You either feel defeated that you lost 3 games so close, or you say there's a lot we can build on there, because it's not just 2 unranked teams. We actually went into Cameron and gave them a hard time. So that's one thing. The second thing, Jack, gold today.
Gold. I mean, the gold is Cooper Flagg. 42 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. Just unbelievable performance from Cooper Flagg. At each game, I've got to pick a thumbnail for our video, and I keep trying to pick somebody else but Cooper Flagg, and he makes it impossible each game to not pick him, which is an awesome problem to have. But I just, he's been just fantastic. The silver is Kalaman Malawach. He was awesome today. Continued to guard well on the perimeter. Move those feet, big fella. And the bronze. It's got to be Konkanippel, but he did not finish well. It's kind of Konkanippel by default. It's, last game against Pittsburgh, it was kind of tough to leave off Sion James. and pick the bronze spot. But today it's kind of by default. Before we wrap up, a couple of quick things. So we'll do the preview for the Miami game tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. Love all of your comments. They've been awesome. Keep leaving your comments. We want to hear from you guys. And speaking of that, a few comments before we wrap up the show today. So Pay the Piper chimed back in. He says he loves Mal. He's great with defensive rebounding, but he finds that he's often out of position with offensive rebounding. What do you think about that?
It's kind of hard when you're that big, because if you have a big on big, it's pretty easy to know that you've got to box out and be in position. If there's no one there to challenge you, I guess sometimes it's a little strange, and it comes out in strange ways where you get a double T with a 5'10" guy, like, why are you drawing with someone 5'10"? So I understand the comment, but I think sometimes it's the matchups that make it hard. So,
okay. Pay the Piper also says he thinks Duke goes 18-2. I think importantly, he says a loss at home and one on the road. Expect everyone to bring their A game. So if Duke collectively underperforms on a night or two, upsets are bound to happen. I think, I agree. I think I've been fairly consistent in saying I think the road loss would be against Clemson. I think that's going to be Duke's toughest test outside of the North Carolina schools, just because of the in-state rivalry with them. But I think that's where it could happen. And then if they were to lose one at home, I guess it would have to be North Carolina. But I don't think so. Not this year. So I have a tough time seeing them losing at home. I'm not sure about that part. And Quality Touch, who had some awesome comments on the preview, says he was 100% embarrassed how we finished. Yeah, it was a rough close. It was a very rough close to this one. Also, shout out Lawrence Freeman, who said he was concerned that Sion James could pick up 2 fouls guarding Marcus Burton. Both of them weren't on Burton, but he did pick up 2 early fouls, so he nailed that one. And I want to give a shout out to Ed Sessoms, who said that Malik Brown may have been playing with a lingering injury. So thanks again for all your comments. Keep leaving your comments. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. We're keep building this thing. Give us a like. It helps us grow, helps us with the algorithm. And we'll see you guys tomorrow with the Duke versus Miami preview. Peace.